Good afternoon. My name is Kemal Erkan. I'm the chairman of United Medical ACO. This is UMED TV. We every week we get together and we cover healthcare-related topics and also from the news around the world and also specifically with the U.S. economy. Today, we are going to be a little bit different than our session is going to be a little bit different than others. So because specifically for this episode, we are going to focus on one of the books that just came out, which we discussed in the last couple of events, and we are going to actually cover that in a different way. We live in a different world today, and for those who can remember in the late 70s, early 80s, imagine, or could you imagine having the mayor of London from Pakistan, Sadiq Khan. Prime Minister of England today is an Indian guy, Rishi Sunak, Mr. Sunak. Prime Minister of Scotland is a Pakistani guy, Hamza Yusuf. If you were to tell someone in 1982, I'm just picking that randomly, they would probably lock you into a mental institution. They would call you crazy. And that's why today is so different. And one of the reasons I'm reminding this for our people is because I want people to be able to relate to what they are reading with this book. And I think it's difficult with today's world and today's issues that we have. So when we fight over bathrooms, which one, who's going to use which bathroom, we fight over gender identity. And we have a really big nationwide issue, a person with a penis who wants to swim in the women's league and wants to call himself, herself, the best ever woman swimmer, which he's not. So that's the world that we live in. So when you read this wonderful book, you're going to have difficulties to understand how good we have today. And how also empty what we make the issues, like what issue becomes, and where we pay attention to, right? So the reason also today is going to be different for those people who know Dr. Irgau, Dr. Isaias Irgau as a surgeon. They're going to get to know him from his other side, his real side, his non-business side. One of the best, finest people that I have ever known. I feel every day I appreciate for his friendship, and it is a privilege for him to be in my friendship circle. So he's an extremely, again, is one of the nicest people I have ever known. So now when someone who's extremely nice and someone who's also so successful, he's one of the best surgeons in the United States. So when you look at all these together, you wonder what went through in their life. And Dr. Erkan has a very interesting story, not just interesting, but extremely hard. So if I had kids, I would make this book like a yearly assignment for them to read and understand what we have today is not real. And we are just lucky. So not everyone is so lucky. But also what makes his story extremely unique is where he never lost hope and he never give up. And this is not easy. And that's why I admire him a lot. And I'm just lucky to have him in my life. So I'm going to let my weekly criming partner, Sean Donegan, first, and then we are going to have our other people in the next couple of minutes. But I want to get his take, and then we'll go from there.
Of course.
Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, just to carry on what you're saying there, this book, obviously written by Dr. Irgau, and captures kind of the harsh reality of what actually exists out there in the world that many people, at least here in the US, maybe live their entire lives not even realizing that these type of atrocities are existing elsewhere in the world. And, just really captures, like you're saying, that triumph of the human spirit and kind of that resilience and the fact that he was able to, survive and what he went through, and not only just say make it out, but make it out on such a top tier level, that he excelled in his life, in his professional life, business life. And also, as you keep mentioning, his friendship, that he has really good relations with other people, and he's able to be such a good character, very humble. And you would think that once you actually get to read this book and get to know what he experienced, kind of helps you put it all in perspective a little bit more and make you a little bit more grateful for some of the things we have.
Absolutely. So United Medical did have a book club, and I asked Katie, one of our client managers, to help me out here. So now I'm going to let them in. Let's see. Right, so it's raining pretty hard outside, so hopefully we won't have any connection issues. But if we do, just keep in mind that it's raining. So that's our today's issues. We may lose internet connection. 40 years ago, that wasn't the case, right? So I am gonna have everyone in specific order that I have. So, Katie, well, first of all, I really do appreciate for you having a book club in United Medical. I did not know that until lately, but as soon as I knew about it, and then since the book, our book, Dr. Irgau's book came out, my initial reaction was, okay, well, maybe she can help me. And then that's what I told Sean. And then, of course, you didn't let me down. So you have this assignment with your team. So I'm going to ask you to kind of talk about the book club that you have, and then how you guys prep for this, and then we'll discuss the book.
Sure. Thanks, Kemal. So about in this previous fall, we decided to start a book club here at United Medical. So far, we've read more books concerning like Atomic Habits or something to do with leadership. So this is still pretty new, but this is our second book that we are reading through. And we were able to get quite a number of people to read this book. That it's quite a different thing to be able to read a book of somebody that you know, or somebody that we're really closely in contact with. So everybody on this meeting has read the book, and it was quite different than a leadership book. It was pretty heart-wrenching, but that's how we came together to read it. We had a couple different meetings where we discussed just the concepts of the book, what we thought about the book. We don't want to just say, oh, we liked it. We want to go into a little more specific. So that's the idea of coming on today, just to tell you different parts that really spoke to each one of us, and just share passages from that.
Excellent. So I know we have, other than yourself, Carla, Terry, Sean, of course, and Kim, Christina. They're all gonna give their input, their opinion about the book, or what they liked the most, I guess. So you wanna start first, and then we'll just go with that same order.
Yeah, sure. So I have a quote from the second chapter of the book, and it said that Christianity and Islam sprouted early in their ascendancies through the highlands of Tigray and flourished for centuries like two rivers watering a common bank. Their faithful bonded by a covenant of tolerance and shared traditions as ageless as the rocks of Axum, rooted in compassion for the weak, stubborn aversion to injustice, and gritty rejection of invaders. This little passage just really stuck out to me because it really stands in such opposition to the genocide that had been occurring. So this culture originally came together in such love and connection, and now it's quite the opposite.
So, Carla, I think we're going to go with you.
Yes, Kemal. And the quote that stuck out most to me is on page 9 in chapter 1. In the midst of despair and hatreds on the street of Asmira, true to the essence of the saint, the statue effuses prayer. And the quote is, where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is despair, hope. And where there is darkness, there is light. Hope is carved in the thick, sturdy, dark marble, unfazed by the swift arrows of death, crisscrossing the square. Hope is in the spirit of Asia, the most precious gift from the Italians to the embattled city. And what I got from that was how the genocide is still going on now. They're in correlation to what happened back in this day and time. We're still in war, and countries are still battling and fighting. And if we show more love, or sow, SOW, sow the love to the people, and let them know that there is hope, even in their despair. And where there is darkness, there is light. And in the very beginning of the book, this is what I got out of it. It was just, it's a really easy read, and I enjoy reading it.
All right, so Terry.
Well, I got to tell you, the book was amazing. I had a hard time finding one thing, so I settled with chapter 10. It's the very last paragraph of chapter 10, and it reads like this. The 2 forged passports are laying on the floor by my feet. I lean down to pick up the documents, and I see the sisters embrace, shedding the tears in silence. The border man stands by the windowsill in his office, his back turned toward us and facing his desk. We are unable to see his eyes, but we sense goodness is in his heart. This particular passage spoke out really to me because he talks about goodness. When you read the whole book, I had to reflect and find the one thing I wanted to talk about. And knowing the story, having come to the conclusion of the book, I think it's amazing that someone who goes through this can actually see the goodness. And I think this is a lesson that Dr. Irgau learned over and over and over and over again. While he learned many lessons, I'm sure, not that he was interested in learning them, but there he was. This particular passage spoke to me because it actually begins like 6.5 pages before. It starts with, he waits for the sobbing to recede, and he meaning the border man. He waits for the sobbing to recede and then declares that regardless of the visa status, the traveler's documents is illegal, making the holder of the passport an illegal immigrant. And again, what's happening here is there are these 2 sisters that are trying to be reunited after 5 years of being torn from each other. And the pain and the agony and the wailing, once upon finding the opportunity in an airport in Rome, they have an opportunity to be reunited. But a piece of paper, specifically an illegal passport that's lacking the embedded engraving, is missing, rendering that passport illegal and therefore that person an immigrant. And Dr. Irgau writes for 6 pages about the agony and anguish these sisters are going through. And then finally, the passage talks about how we're unable to see the border man's eyes, but this man, he turned around, he threw the 2 illegal passports because one of them, I don't want to give away the book, belongs to someone else. And there they lay on the floor. And that man made a choice, a conscious choice to show compassion. And he himself, the border man, could have gone to jail for that action, but he did the right thing. That's why I liked it so much.
Thank you, Terry. Sean?
Sure. So the part I picked was actually from chapter 4, and it's on page 47. And it begins with, life pauses to yield to the passing of a snippet of itself. Life is the greatest gift given to us by our God. He reflects, there is no higher miracle than its arrival. Each life is unique and special. Every single life is enshrined into being after a billion stars delicately line up with perfect symmetry for billions of generations. And the reason I picked this particular quote is because if you think about the entire theme behind the book and how precious every single life is, the fact that Dr. Irgau is able to go through his journey and just see the impact that he has now, decades later on all of our lives, and how even if it's from just a simple friendship to he may be saving someone's life through surgery, that type of intervention, his one single life is now, trickling down and impacting so many other people. And if you think about all the other life that unfortunately was lost during, these atrocities, think about how precious every single one was and the potential impacts, that were unfortunately lost, way too soon than they should have been. And this kind of just, summarizes that theme of how miraculous his journey was, but also how precious each and every life is in itself, and each individual should be appreciated.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. Kim.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So the verse that I picked it's in chapter 5 on page 69. And it begins by saying, life that flourishes, knowing no borders, is sacrificed to cement boundaries. Life and love can never be fenced in. War is waged to confine life. Love melts borders to foster life. Love opens doors to life that flees misery and despair. So for me, that spoke to me, and it kind of speaks to me throughout the book, as I'm reading it. Because what I'm connecting to over and over is the humanity and the kindness and the love of these fellow human beings that are, just being, trying to live a very simple life, and they're uprooted in chaos. And in spite of all of that, they're just loving. And then to actually know Dr. Irgau and how his kindness, and to know his children and how he has, raised these loving children and kind humans. It's a good read. It's a good experience to read it. Like, I felt like I was kind of there and rooted in the story. Like, it was the details kind of put you there.
Mhm.
And, I was emotionally connected to the book.
No, absolutely. That's actually, I have a very similar feeling about being in those scenes, and the picture is so well defined. So we are going to come back and then we'll just have a group talk, but I want to make sure Christina has her turn. So.
Hi. Well, there were quite a few different excerpts that I had really enjoyed from the book. One of the ones that I have that stood out to me was from chapter 5. It starts with, "It is either summer or winter in the naive mind. The lords of war prey on it, painting the universe in shadeless black and white. The youth, blinded by the contrast, are seduced by the easy answers and promises of rectitude. They are led like spring lambs to walk through hell in search of paradise." So that's one that had stood out to me. And there's a following one that's there in regards to a reporter too, that had also kind of that contrasted that. But I think overall the book had there was so much description throughout that was there. Kim was kind of saying on it that by the time you had gotten to the end of the book, you could walk through the setting of what was there. You had all of the descriptions leading up to it, to the climax of the story had put you in there. You knew what was going to happen at that point, but leading up to it, everything had just was almost overwhelming at that point because it was so vivid. I don't know if you guys.
Okay, well, thank you, Christina. So one of the reasons this book actually came about is because of the pandemic. So we did have a little bit of time. Everyone had maybe a little bit more time, but this was a project for Dr. Irgau for a long time, but he just didn't have that type of time to actually focus on. So, and during the time of the pandemic, it's similar to that time. Like, it's around that time, as you guys will remember, issues in Tigray started. So, and I had really no idea how bad the situation was until I had to do some research, and we did our first live session about Tigray in 2020. I may be a little bit off at the time, but it's been a while now. So then then we did 4 total events. And it's kind of amazing how we didn't know about it from the media. It wasn't right in front of us. Just like what happened in Ukraine, everyone talked about it. Everyone, like regardless of who they are, even the news the journalists, they were actually describing this as like, oh, these are just like us, blonde, blue-eyes people, so we have to welcome them. By that time, we had probably more than 5 million people displaced. They were in different places. And so many kids, so many women, they were tortured, they were killed. And then this wasn't the first time. So, one of the main motivation for me, for us to have this channel is to have an independent voice. Independent voice is, it has a lot of responsibility. So you have to be fair. But what we fight on hypocrisy. Like when people, like just because we want this way doesn't mean that we are right, or just because they want that way is because we have to give it to them. That's not what it is. It has to be. We have to be able to have a fair life, or we should make this fair for others. This can be just a country, but this can be also like United Medical. Like in this company, we should be fair, right? So just like we are fair here, that should go to every other level that we live in, every other dimension that we are in. So because of these, then I knew the story of Dr. Irgau, which took a little bit longer than I was expecting, I guess, because we met 20 years ago. I got to know his story in, I think it was 2014-ish. So that was after 10, 11 years of knowing him. And it wasn't him telling me this. Apparently that day, and I did share this with you guys a couple of weeks ago, when we were at the airport, he planned to talk to me about his story, like his life. So, but he couldn't do that because we met with his friend that he couldn't remember first, but then we got to know him, and then it was back all the way back to their elementary school years. And his friend told me that, but that same day he was just telling me, reminding me this, I forgot about this. And then I'm like, well, this has to be, people need to know about this, like this, what you guys went through, how you were able to fight with all these unfair, difficult conditions. Like, Terry is from our HR, right? So she says, well, this person would be arrested if they find this, but when you don't have any choice, right? You'll just keep trying. And that's the story here that we have, that there is no give up. You never give up. So strong. I think one of the most amazing thing for me is when, and I think, Sean, when you were saying how Dr. Irgau is now able to help so many different people, from the surgery side, from the his personal life, how many lives he's able to touch, and also the way that he was able to raise 4 wonderful kids. Now, these kids are not your regular scholarship kids. These kids are really hardworking, extremely smart kids who were raised by these 2 parents, and I know their mom as well. And when you go through those difficulties, that much difficulty, can you still do that today? Like, if at what point we would give up, right? So these 4 kids, I'm always so proud of them. So then I sometimes I see them as like my nephews, but these kids went to top universities in the world, like Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, Tufts. So that's the new one. So that's in the top 25. But this other is top 3, and they did it. So they are not. They don't have scholarship. They got in there with perfect SAT scores. And when I look at those kids, and when I know Dr. Irgau's life and how different that is, right? So like, just imagine someone who goes to Harvard or Columbia or Stanford, their problems day to day versus what their dad went through to survive. But then the dad didn't reflect any of his issues from the past for this today's life, because many of us, we do take our anger on others. We do take our when we are treated unfairly, we get upset with our friends and with families. We take it on them, right? So this story is so heavy, and this person, Dr. Irgau, not only he survived, but he became one of the nicest, finest, most refined person. So that part, I think, is the best, in my opinion. And knowing this and being able to share this now with others, I think that's really important. But Kim, you mentioned how well defined the book was, like how the description was so good. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so just right from the beginning, just describing, how the simple things of walking to the store to get some bread, or, how their life was, or how his father dressed, and those simple things, riding your bike to and from work, little things just to describe like the family and the culture of the people. It just, I don't know, I just kind of could see myself there. And then when in the beginning of the book, when the soldiers came into the city and he couldn't get home and he had his son with him and they were hiding, like I just felt like that angst that, this child was probably scared to death. And as a parent, I'm a parent, and I'm thinking if this were happening to me and my kid, like it would be terrifying, and then to be separated from your family. And it kind of spoke to me because I kind of relate to tragedy in childhood, or, so I grew up in a foster home. So I was kind of dropped off and, given to the state to take care of. And I remember the fear of that as a child, which is nothing in comparison to a war or people driving through your streets with guns. And, and the perseverance and the love that happens through that perseverance and strength is something I connect with, because I could have certainly turned out a very different person. And Dr. Irgau certainly could have been a different person, and his children could be different people, but his humanity and his love and his strength and perseverance he chose that over the war and the hate. And the choice is stronger than what happened to you in life, I think.
That's actually, we probably thought about the same thing. So one of my issues with the book is some of us, so can we pick on Sean today so we can? So,
sure.
So like, I was worried that someone like him, who was born in the United States, went to good schools, and he was the quarterback of his college football team. So how can he relate to this book? And can he actually really relate, or can he really, not like because I know him personally, I know that he would be able to, but if I didn't know him, can he really understand what happened here? What Dr. Irgau and other people similar to Dr. Irgau, what they went through. And some of these people, they didn't make it. They couldn't make it. So just like today, there are 5-6 million people just from this region. They're not blonde and blue eyes, which apparently makes a big difference when they are being reported. And that's the part that actually makes it extremely sad for me. And then yet, can we relate to that? So that's kind of like when Kim mentioned it, and because she mentioned it, I'm repeating it. Even someone who lived in a foster home is not able to imagine the world that's that unfair, just being in the war, and you are just 15 years old, and there are 6 other kids younger than him. Mom doesn't. She's a housewife, doesn't won't be able to do it on her own. and boom, all of a sudden their life is shattered, and you lose the backbone of the family, breadwinner of the family, and father, parents, friend, and your life is destroyed, and yet you're still able to put everything back together. And then at some point, the guy was like, okay, so I need to stop, reading it because it was a little bit too much, because you feel like you are right there. So that's why I'm thinking that, it would be a really good movie if we are able to get someone who may be interested in this. Just the time so well defined. So hopefully more people can read and understand. But going back to being able to relate, did you have, like, Sean, I'm going to ask you this, and then you guys also can answer from your side as well. Any difficulty to relate to this?
Yes, I think, as you mentioned, it's kind of hard because, as you're saying, the privilege that you have growing up here, like, as a child, safe neighborhood, there's always going to be food, there's always going to be safety. I think the biggest, concern might be if the power went out during like a thunderstorm for a half hour, and all of a sudden, like, that was the end of the world. It's like, oh, now the power's out. But when you're putting it into perspective, I think to me, it's interesting. Like, I'm kind of wondering this, if everyone with their emotions, if they're felt like on this continuum of, like, say, like the worst day for someone, who's in a very affluent neighborhood in America, like their worst day, like I always wonder, like, it's the pain or whatever emotion they happen to be feeling, like, is that felt the same, like their worst day compared to, obviously this atrocity is totally different ballpark, not even close, but I'm just always wondering, like, physically, like, or emotionally, that pain that you feel, is it similar? Is it nowhere near? Like, does it actually feel worse? Like, at exponentially, different event that you went through. So to put that, like you're saying, to kind of get back to, can I relate? Like, obviously there's things that may make me upset, that who would care if someone, for what you're experiencing during, like a genocide, you wouldn't care if you scuffed your new shoes. Like, you're literally fleeing for your life. So who would care if the new Nikes got scuffed on the sidewalk? So,
it's, I think, again, it's a reminder for us, right? So because sometimes, because Dr. Irgau and I, we spend a lot of time together. So, and every time I'm a little bit negative, and I see him still giving me the positive spin, I'm like, how do you do this? Like, I'm like, you went through all those difficulties in your life, and then you are telling me to be positive. And because he's not lost in what happened in the past, right? But nothing today is comparable to what he went through here. So now, in our country here in the United States, we may have people who may be in difficult situations, but they have access. If they yell, someone is going to help. We have a social worker in this book club, and her job is to reach out to those who may not be able to fill their medication on time, to find how they can do that in a timely manner. And then there are so many places available, resources available. But more than that, she herself is able to help them, because we identify those people individually. And then Carla, Roxana, they reach out to these people to see, well, we think that you are not getting your medication on time. What can we do to make this easier for you? And these people are not the wealthiest, they are not Elon Musk and Bill Gates. These are people who are on Medicaid, right? And there are so many places that we have, not only it's there available, but we have people who are helping them to navigate the system. So, and I'm not saying that they don't have these difficulties, but I'm really not able to see the hopelessness. Like, everything is taken. So then, and for what? Just imagine, like, we all have our own places that we live in, and then one day we come in, and then they're saying that that's not our home anymore. Who makes that decision? Who puts these borders, right? The way that we have, so to a point we are going to kill people, to a point we are going to rape women, to a point we are going to hunger these kids, and yet we still want to have that border right in there. who decides to this and why? That's the, I think, part of the real life issue is one thing, but also maybe taking us to those types of issues to see the rules and regulations, and not everything is in the most fair setup that we have. Now, I do believe this, and then this is, I know that Dr. Irgau would say the same. Right now, today, April 28, 2023, this is the best time of the world from every point. We live in the best time. I'm not saying there are issues we may have, but what I'm saying is in terms of access, in terms of our voice being heard. Right now we are live and other people are watching this, and we don't have any expensive equipment to make this happen. There are 7 of us, and we all come from different computers, different connections. And today, if Carla or Kim have any issues in their life and then they need authorities to help them, that's just one phone call away, or that's just one click away from them, right? So this is where we are today. Now, I talk to my mom on FaceTime every day. In fact, to a point where she can't even talk to me if we are not on FaceTime anymore. So we forgot how to do the other way. So this is the time that we live in. So, and yet we still have these issues. Like what has happened 40 years ago is happening today. This is for Tigray. What's happening in Ukraine? What's happening in other parts of the world? So I know you guys were in the waiting room. I don't know if you heard my opening, but when we have Pakistani, Scottish Prime Minister and Indian British Prime Minister, that's where we are today. But yet in Tigray, still people are hungry and people are being killed, just like 50 years ago. Is the change only for us in the most developed countries, or are we doing this at the cost of these countries? This is the other part of it. And I think that's why this book, everyone should really read it carefully and try to understand the responsibility that we have. I think we all, individually, we have responsibilities. Even for you guys to be on this call today, it's your part, that you are doing your part and then communicating this. And I think that's why it's really important. So, Christine, I know you were having some issues with internet there. So, did you want to add anything, or did you want to share anything from your side if you are not having issues on the connection? You are on mute. Okay. So she's, I cannot, okay. So
I think she said she's good.
All right, so.
She's good.
Okay, so Katie, anything you would like to add, you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. So I actually had the privilege of being able to live in Ethiopia for a month in 2015. So reading this book was a little bit different for me, at least from the book club. Nobody else had been to Ethiopia. And where I stayed was quite a far cry from where Dr. Irgau grew up. But when I was there, I mentioned there was no mention of this, but I think in any culture, you're not going to bring out the dirty laundry per se. You're going to say, oh, look at all of our good claims. Look at this. Look at everything that we've succeeded in. I don't think it was something of the people that I saw there that they wanted to necessarily bring this up. But it was interesting reading the epilogue in the book that this has been going on for 40 years, but more recently in the last couple of years has this spiked back up again. Having that experience though, like Christina mentioned, the description of the coffee ceremonies or the tea, it was just unique to be able to relate to experiencing that.
Yeah, so this 40 years is like, it's repeated after 40 years. So right. It's been happening. So I think when you were there in 2015, and I did not know that, by the way. How long did you stay there?
1 month.
1 month. And so you stay in a home with someone, or
we we're working in an orphanage in Yergalam, so in southern Ethiopia, where this is much in northern.
Yeah. Nice. So that time, I think the issue started at the end of 2019.
Okay. So it makes sense.
20. Actually, now time is coming back. So when what triggered the problem is that they canceled the elections because of the COVID.
Okay.
And that's where everything started. So, well, since you guys are also working with our Turkey office very closely, there is an earthquake happened 2 months ago, and it was devastating. 11 big cities were impacted, but they still have their election a week from now. So what government did, federal government did, because they didn't think they were going to win, they canceled the elections, and then that's how it started. And Tigray went through and then did their own election, because there's each state has their own autonomy, and then that's where the whole problem started. So, and I think those were probably your lucky days when you were there. Now, before this, we were planning to see if we can have a partnership with one of the medical institutions to see, we can start a medical school, or we can be part of medical school. We have a lot of doctors, and they actually go there and rotate, and then this happened. So now I don't think they will let me go into Ethiopia. So Dr. Erkan and I, we may be on the shit list after our live events. But what makes these a little bit more frustrating, guys, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, is a Nobel Prize winner. So this is why we kind of get really upset in some of these episodes, how we are actually recognizing for these individuals for what they do and what they don't, but then someone gets it, and once you have that, you are able to do more damage for your position, from your position, because you are kind of like certified to do no bad, so that you can't do anything bad. So they think that this is giving you a license to do more evil stuff, and then he did, and he's still in charge. Now, maybe he has a different story. I was looking at his background. Like, I think he was born in a Muslim family, then turned into Christian. And if there was I thought maybe there was some religion issue that he had, but he didn't. Went to really good schools. And at a very early age, he got the Nobel Peace Prize. So, and that's the world that we live in, I guess. So, and again, I'm going to probably repeat this. So if I had kids, and I know that I have my nephews, so I'm going to make sure that they read this book. So, and because I talk about Dr. Irgau and his life all the time with my family, and just so that it's a great example, but then sometimes we can really get disconnected from all these things just because our reality is what we have, and then we don't care about anything else. So I won't give you a name, but one of my family members today was complaining about when she got back into her car, her seat wasn't left where she left it, and she was upset. My older sister without the name. So, and I said, look, I'm going to cover this issue today. So I think the problem, this issue that you're having is not an issue. Just to let you know, you can just click on one button and then it will bring it back. But she was like, first she was kind of fascinated. She's like, oh my God, why can't they just respect my seat? I'm like, hello, we're going to talk about this. Let's not do that today, right? So that's a kind of maybe a funnier example of it, but that's the reality. We forget about everything else. So just because this is our reality. So that's why I believe we have to be more mindful. And then I think this book does help us to keep reminding us what our responsibilities are and what we can do in our life. Anyone else wants to add anything before we close this part?
Come on, I just want to add that I think the most important thing that we can do is to talk about it. And so, like your mom, I also FaceTime my child. And it's like the only time I call her, I FaceTime her. And we often share books and we read at the same time. So this is something that I spoke to her about just last night, actually, because I was angry actually at the prime minister who won the Nobel Peace Prize, and then next thing you know, he committed a war pact with this other guy, and and these people just being terrorized, and it's terrible way to treat humans, and I get so upset by it. So I was calling her, and I was reading her what the book said, and I'm like, can you believe it? I'm like, this is happening now. Like, you can't believe that humans are being slaughtered or victimized in today's age, that this is happening. It's so shocking and tragic, and I can't believe that the United Nations is letting it happen.
Yeah.
It's such a crime against humanity, and to be allowed to continue and no one knows about it. It's not being talked about.
I think people do know about it, the countries, but I don't think what we want to do is limited. So they can choose. Well, this region doesn't have a lot of natural resources. We are more concerned about Iraq, Kuwait, and other places where
Oil.
Most advanced countries, that's how they become more advanced, by taking advantage of other countries. So that's why this is so unfortunate. And I think we really need to voice our opinions and make an impact. And you're right, we need to talk about it. So I wanted to see our First Lady serving food for people in Tigray. We saw her in Ukraine. I see her in Tigray. That's the world that I want to live in. I want to live in a world that's fair, regardless of your religion, your skin color, your background, your gender. You are being treated equally. That's the only way that I think we can. That's the next level problem for us. And hopefully we'll get there. So look at Dr. Irgau. Like, if he gave up this hope, then he wouldn't be here today. So we have to keep the hope, and we have to keep it positive. And I know we are going to be able to be better people and better maybe countries in time. So that's my hope. But I do appreciate for you guys to joining us, and share your experience and read this book really quickly. That's the other thing. I know you guys are all busy, but at the same time, I felt a lot better when I know that people that I work with every day, they also get to know Dr. Irgau, and they can have a better idea about what he went through. And if you are able to share with your own family and friends, that's great. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Kemal.
Thanks, Kemal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, so well, this was good. I think they did really wonderful. So
yeah,
and thank you also for coordinating that with Katie.
Of course.
So I think we are going to be off next week from our events, right? So then there will be still Bariatric Friday because I'm traveling.
Yeah, so the Bariatric Friday next week is actually going to take place in our 2 p.m. Live session slot because you are traveling. And then just, I believe, looking forward even further, we will eventually want to have another follow-up session where we have Dr. Irgau on to get his kind of.
I will do that interview with him, and he will join me as well. So that's going to be in June.
Yeah.
And then this time when I'm in Turkey, I want to maybe hopefully do at least one of our sessions from there. So it'll be a different, since I'm not traveling while I'm there, that should be good. I know a lot of other things are happening from our regular updates, but nothing major, right?
No, I know we have Senator Townsend's coming in the end of May. And then, as you mentioned, the one session I believe that you're going to be able to do in Turkey will be one of our wellness webinars, if I'm not mistaken. So you have those.
All right. Well, today we covered, hopefully everyone enjoyed the session, but we covered the book, TIGRAYan Electrician by Dr. Isaias Irgau. If you haven't bought it yet, please buy it, read it, and put good reviews for him.
That's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon,
Yep.
yeah. And we'll put the link on the YouTube channel. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.